Hey, good afternoon, everyone. This is Donna again. It's fantastic to see so much interest in the DARPA Lift Challenge. We're incredibly excited to have over 800 people registered for this webinar. We've also received a ton of great feedback and questions, over 300 emails. We know you're eager for the details, so I'm going to walk you through some key areas to provide clarity and answer many of your questions. We'll also update the FAQs on our website with the latest information. I'm going to go over a lot of key details very quickly. The assumption is that you have already watched my previous video and have read the rules and FAQs on the website. If you have not, you might want to come back to this video after you have reviewed those materials. This webinar is being recorded and will be posted on the website so that you can rewatch and review all the points later on as well. As a side note, I took part in a DARPA Challenges webinar 2 days ago that talks about why we do challenges and how they are set up. For those who are interested in the broader vision, you can go to DARPA Connect website to watch that recording. Today, we'll be covering competition timeline and plan, eligibility and participation, challenge rationale, aircraft design, payload, event and course overview, and FAA regulations. I'll also try to leave some time at the end for clarifying questions. Just use the Q&A feature to submit yours. Let's get started by talking about the journey leading up to the challenge itself. First, mark your calendars. We're aiming to launch the team application link on January 5th, 2026 on the DARPA Lift Challenge webpage. To apply, just one U.S. person or U.S. registered entity needs to submit the team information. This person will be the official team representative. Teams are welcome to include as many members as they'd like, including those from other countries, as long as they are not on the U.S. Department of War's restricted country list. Keep in mind that attendance on site at the competition will be capped at 10 members per team. The application itself is straightforward. Team name, team representative's name, contact details, and a logo if you have one. That's it for now. We want to include as many teams as possible, but we are working within the constraints of time and space. We're aiming for about 200 to 300 teams at the challenge, but we might expand if there is overwhelming interest. Now let's look at the critical deadlines. At the end of January, you'll need to submit a draft concept paper outlining your aircraft design. To save you time, the contents of this paper will mirror the FAA certification submission as much as possible. In March, show us your progress by submitting build pictures. We want to see that you're making headway in building your aircraft. For May, this is a big one. Submit flight test video verification, your final concept paper, and proof of FAA certification. This is also when the application period will close. Finally, in June, selected teams who have met these deadlines and deliverables will receive a formal invitation to compete at the challenge location. More on that later. Let's clarify again who can participate and how. Collaboration is encouraged between companies or individuals. As I said, you can have both U.S. and foreign team members as long as any foreign members are not on that Department of War restricted country list. Government and military organizations can participate, but only if the submitted design hasn't been previously funded by the government. And if civilian, federal, or military personnel are using work hours, supplies, or facilities, they must, of course, have their employer's permission. Each team needs at least one appointed remote pilot in command, or RPIC. That RPIC doesn't need to be a U.S. citizen, but they must have a U.S. FAA pilot certification to operate the aircraft at the competition. Foreign certifications won't be accepted. Furthermore, DARPA will not provide direct funding or resources to any team. However, we are creating a contributor portal where American companies can sponsor teams or donate materials. That portal will be live later this month, and we'll share that link as soon as it's ready. Okay. We've received a lot of questions about aircraft design, but first I'm going to give you guys some background as to why we selected the aircraft and course parameters for this challenge. It boils down to about 5 key considerations. First, applicability. The general concept is a simple payload delivery 5 nautical miles away and then returning to base empty. This shows applicability for both the military and civilian sectors. Second, safety. In order to eventually be certified, the aircraft has to have a safe level of controllability. We set the course as a loop to demonstrate this controllability while staying within visual line of sight, therefore eliminating the expensive sensors and comms that would be required and maintaining safe operations. Third, broad participation. The altitude limitation of 350 plus or minus 50 feet is established by FAA regulations for Class G airspace. We want teams to have the ability to test their designs in a similar challenge format prior to the competition, which is feasible within these more widely accessible Class G airspaces. Fourth, streamlining certifications. Another consideration we have made in designing the challenge is addressing the certification bottlenecks. A lesson we have learned coming out of previous challenges is we set the aircraft weight to below 55 pounds in order to allow a rapid build and test under Part 107 regulations. This will give teams time to submit for proper certification without delaying the build and test timeline of the core aircraft. And fifth, a real-world impact. A lot of people have suggested that it would be easier to not cross the 55-pound certification barrier. First of all, this is a DARPA challenge. It's not supposed to be easy. In order to transform aviation, we need to show a relevant payload weight that shows immediate impact to the user. Okay, so now for aircraft design details. There are no size restrictions for your drone. Restricting it to under 55 pounds will ensure that most designs fit within the course. If you have something extreme, we will handle that on a case-by-case basis. Just let us know. We have changed the layout from one 10-foot radius to two 5-foot radius zones, one for payload drop and one for aircraft takeoff and landing. The center body of the drone needs to land and take off within a 5-foot radius to demonstrate control, but the whole drone doesn't have to fit inside of that. Okay, some other things. Modified COTS or commercial off-the-shelf drones are perfectly acceptable. Energy and engine types are unrestricted by DARPA, but you must first adhere to all FAA regulations and safety guidelines. If you run into any issues with that, email us at our challenge address. Okay, starter motors and systems, those can be separate, but landing gear or components must be part of the aircraft. All parts of the aircraft, including energy and any payload attachments, must be under 55 pounds total. Lots of people asked that question. Lighter than air concepts are not allowed for reducing the aircraft or the payload weight. Gases can be used for propulsion and controls, but just not for lift. Regarding takeoff restrictions, the aircraft and payload must take off vertically. No sliding or rolling takeoffs, even inside that 5-foot radius. No minimum vertical height is required before forward flight starts. We are not allowing the addition or subtraction of parts or components between the loaded and unloaded portions of the course, including adding any energy. Transformation is allowed, but you must carry all components, including the payload attachments, during the unloaded portion of the route. The only things that will be left behind are the gym plates. That's a crucial one. Lots of questions there. NDAA compliance is not required for this challenge. That means you can buy parts from wherever. And there are no specific autonomy requirements, but we do require a human pilot backup if autonomy is used. Specific radio frequencies will not be used during the challenge. Using a control link protocol similar to Express LRS is recommended. Lastly, DARPA will not claim IP. You're free to protect your designs via patents before the event. Keep in mind, this will be an open event where photography and videography will be allowed throughout the area. Okay, moving on, let's talk about the payload. The payload will be made up of barbell standard brand cast iron weight plates. The increments that we'll be using are 45, 35, 25, 10, 5, and 2.5 pounds. So any combination of those. The plates must be co-located and can't be part of the structure, and the orientation of the plates doesn't matter. The payload can be tethered, but both the aircraft and payload must stay within the 350 plus or minus 50 feet in altitude during the flight. Unloads can happen manually or automatically. However, manual unloads can only happen after rendering the aircraft safe. Also, the overall flight time does not stop during the unload and will continue throughout the flight attempt. And we'll use 2 trackers, one on the payload, which is included in the payload weight, and one on the aircraft, which is the required FAA flight ID, and that will count towards the aircraft weight. Okay, now that we have covered challenge, rationale, aircraft design, and payload details, let's talk about the summer 2026 event. As implied in the rules, the competition will be held outdoors, and you will have to fly in whatever weather conditions are present during your flight window, up to the limits defined in the rules. Each team will have a designated home base area under a large tent equipped with power, tables, and chairs. Facilities and other amenities, including food, will be available on site. There will be an open event, or this will be an open event, where the public will be invited and your designs will be on display. Each team will be assigned 2 flight windows, one morning and one afternoon, with an assigned lane, number, date, and time for each. 90 minutes before your flight window, you'll move your aircraft to the preparation box as shown on the screen. Think of it like an on-deck, batter-on-deck kind of area. This will allow you to prepare and help us stay on schedule. At the start of your 90-minute flight window, you'll move to the competition box for safety checks, weigh-ins, and your first flight attempt. The remote pilot in command will be stationed next to the lane coordinator within the competition box at the end of the lane throughout the entire flight window. Time starts when the payload leaves the ground and ends when the aircraft lands after the final unloaded nautical mile and the power is cut. The payload must touch the ground vertically within the 5-foot radius. Payload landing zone the payload must land in a safe and controlled manner. Again, no clock stoppage during the payload drop-off. Your aircraft must attain a flight altitude of 350 plus or minus 50 feet by 0.5 nautical miles, and you can start your descent at 3.5 nautical miles. Remember, you must complete 4 full nautical miles before dropping off the payload, then complete the final unloaded nautical mile. For that one, you must reach flight altitude by 0.2 nautical miles and can descend after 0.8 nautical miles. If any of these criteria are not met, it will result in an infraction. Infractions simply invalidate that specific scoring attempt. We will not have a points reduction system. A nearby screen will record your telemetry and digitally inform you if an infraction has occurred. If this happens, you can continue to practice or return to the start point, prepare your aircraft, weigh it again, and start again. You may attempt as many flights as your window allows. However, you must land back in the takeoff landing zone by the end of your flight, regardless of where you are in your attempt. And teams can bring multiple copies of their designs as well as spare parts in case of damage. Okay, on to some exciting news. We're collaborating with Flite Test, the popular RC aviation organization, to leverage their event and collaborate in building a robust community. Their president, Josh Bixler, is with us today. There he is. Hey, Josh, welcome. We're excited to finally announce our competition. What do you got to say? The floor is over to you.
We are beyond excited to be able to collaborate with DARPA on this upcoming Lift Challenge. For over 15 years, Flite Test has worked hard to inspire over 2 million community members to dream bigger, build bolder, and to push flight to new limits. We do this through entertaining with our family-friendly YouTube content. We educate through our FT STEM programs, and we also inspire others by doing some really crazy builds and bringing others along the journey. This Lift Challenge is an amazing opportunity to engage with a worldwide community of flight enthusiasts all around a common goal.
All right, thanks, Josh. As I said, the number of registrants will determine where we host the competition. One possible option would be to potentially co-locate with Flite Test's flagship event, Flight Fest in Malvern, Ohio in June. We really look forward, Josh, to sharing more about the collaboration in our coming months, and appreciate you hopping on with us. Okay. All right, let's finish up and cover a few remaining items. First, the FAA requirements. All participants must follow FAA Part 107 guidelines while you are under 55 pounds. This includes the drone pilot license, registration, and Part 107 airworthiness. For operations above 55 pounds, we have been working with the FAA to create and use a precedent-setting summary grant. Each team will have to submit a 44807 or a special authority for certain unmanned aircraft systems, and you will also have to upgrade your drone license and registration accordingly. You will then be able to operate your above 55-pound gross weight, max operating weight in the approved and appropriate airspace. Make sure your FAA paperwork is submitted early, as certification can take time, even with the coordination that we've been doing with the FAA. I know this seems like a lot of work, but this competition isn't just about building drones. It's about building a vibrant community empowered by shared knowledge. In this case, a key focus is developing a strong understanding of the rules and regulations surrounding drone operations. As soon as we're able, we will share a DARPA Lift Challenge specific FAA checklist. Lastly, once the prize money is awarded to the official team representative, DARPA won't impose any restrictions on how you use it. Okay, now that I've covered most asked topics, let's hear what other clarifying questions you may have. Anne, what have we got?
All right, Donna, starting us off. If the payload does not touch the ground due to landing gear and falls a short distance after landing, is that an infraction?
No, so the primary thing that we're thinking about here is the safety, right? So obviously if your landing gear is here and your payload is here, you've safely landed and you drop it a couple of inches or whatever down to the ground, that's a safe and controlled release of it. It's hard with the wording to cover every scenario, but that one's perfectly reasonable. It's a safe and controlled environment. You dropped it a few inches in a controlled manner, so that's fine.
From the current draft rules, all plates comprising the payload must be co-located at a single point on the UAS. Could you elaborate on what you mean by single point?
Yeah, so what we didn't want is people spreading the weights out all over. So remember, this is going back to the intent of it is it's a military or civilian organization that wants to transport cargo, and that can be any type of cargo, right? Any size and shape and all that sort of stuff. So we wanted kind of a singular place where that cargo goes rather than maybe spreading out the weights all over and really just taking advantage of the fact that we're using consolidated weights. So put it all in the same place. It doesn't have to have a single attachment point, but co-locate those weights and then drop them off either manually or automatically like we talked about before.
Is the challenge payload limited to 4 times the maximum drone weight? Specifically, should I be designing my drone to lift a maximum amount of 220 pounds?
No. So that's why we switched. We have 2 different metrics, right? You have the minimum of 110 pounds. That's because we wanted to have that kind of realistic payload weight. But we made it the actual competition based off the payload to weight ratio. So we want you to hit whatever weight you can, right? Because that's the number that will be on the leaderboard is the ratio number, not the total weight. Yeah, we'll have it in there for information purposes, but it's the ratio. So you want to get the best ratio you can, whether that's making your aircraft lighter or carrying more payload, as long as you're above that 110 pounds, is up to you and your design.
Can non-reusable parts be used on the aircraft? Are we allowed to eject mass off the vehicle?
Yeah, so this is an interesting one. The course that we're going to do is going to allow, there's not going to be anything underneath the course. So we are going to allow you to eject energy sources if they are already used in order to lighten your load. But you can't eject any part of the flyable aircraft. So that's got to be an energy source. Remember, you're going out somewhere, you're dropping off a payload, you're coming back to home base. The home base is where you're going to add that energy and put everything back. So there can't be any change to that aircraft in that kind of transition. Does that make sense? I think it does.
Does the aircraft have to be powered by thrust only? Can it have airfoils and switch to a fixed wing design mid-flight?
Oh, no. Yeah, all options are out there. So we hope to see that. We hope to see transforming aircraft. And we've already seen a couple of really cool ideas. So, however you're wanting to, slip the surly bounds of Earth and depart and then transition for your flight time. I know that our oval course, we've gotten that a lot. This is going to be hard. It's going to be geo-fenced. One thing we didn't cover before is we're looking at about a 50-foot wide course, pretty narrow, pretty limited, and then about a quarter mile in length. So you'll have to fly that multiple times. A lot of people have said that's really hard. And going back, yes, this is a hard challenge. You have to have the controllability and the power to be able to do that. So, yeah, transitioning or transforming your aircraft between vertical and horizontal flight is definitely options.
All right, transitioning topics a little bit. Will there be food at the grand event?
Josh, you want to jump in there?
Yeah, one of our favorite thing about Flight Fest events is the food in the community. So there will definitely be food at the event, and it'll be something for the whole family to enjoy.
Awesome, thanks.
The contestants will have to transport their equipment to the location of the competition. Do you have any guidance on that?
Josh, maybe you can jump in here too. How do Flight Fest competitors bring their stuff in? Where do they park? Stuff like that. I mean, we'll get more of this. We'll get, the site layout and everything when we know, but generally they just bring their own vehicle, right? And drop it off in their tents.
Yeah. Oftentimes with community bringing their models and stuff to fly at Flight Fest events and go into the tents, they're usually based at their campsites. There will be camping at Flight Fest, and then there's also the ability to shuttle things in. So definitely recommend planning ahead on how you're going to easily transport these to their locations where you're going to set up. But people generally have no problem getting in to the event and finding this place.
Okay. And as a plug, if you guys haven't seen their YouTube videos in the Flight Fest, definitely check them out. I'm looking forward to aerial combat during this event. And we won't be using the DARPA Lift Challenge in aerial combat. I guess if you're done with your event, you can go and do that. Maybe that'd be fun. But yeah, it's going to be an awesome event. All right, Ann, what else do we have?
When you say 4 times the initial weight, are you referring to the max takeoff weight or the max operating weight?
Yeah, so MOW, max operating weight. So 4 times the payload to weight ratio is based off of your aircraft weight and the payload, right? And so I do want that payload to be 4 times the aircraft weight. Now, max takeoff weight is dependent on your configuration. Are you taking off with the payload, or are you taking off separately and then sling loading or any other fashion? So its max operating weight is the FAA terms that they use, right? That's where you have the 55-pound barrier. But for us, the 4X is the payload is 4 times the aircraft weight.
Is there a speed limit for horizontal flight? Under Part 107, speed is limited to 100 miles per hour. Does this limitation apply to this competition?
So no, because you will not be operating at the competition under Part 107. You'll be operating under the 44807. There's lots of stuff on the internet to read about this. The FAA has a lot of websites and links and stuff, so I encourage everybody to get familiar with the rules and regulations. But the 44807 summary grant will allow us to go above that 100-mile-an-hour speed limit.
May we have more than one drone entry so that we can try a heavier weight and still compete at the minimum 110-pound payload if it doesn't complete the flight attempt?
Yes. Okay, so there's 2 different ways of doing this. You can have the same design, and I recommend this for everybody. Just go out and post a score with your 110 pounds. Get on the board, right? And then your next flight attempt, go for your heavier, that winning payload to weight ratio number. But if you have 2 different designs and you want to fly one just to get on the board with 110 and then another one to try and max out, you do have to register as two different teams. That, all the people can be the same, but each team is really actually defined by a unique design. So register as two teams, Team A, Team B, and then the people will all be the same and everything.
Will there be limits on AI use during the challenge?
So no, and this goes into another question I saw about autonomy. Are we looking for anything? So we're trying to laser focus here on this payload to weight ratio. If you try and do everything, you'll probably fail at everything, right? So we're trying to do one thing and really focus on that. So AI, autonomy, any of that stuff is not a focus here. If you use it specifically to lift more weight than someone else can, then that's very interesting to us, right? If it's a part of the payload to weight ratio, but if it's just part of controllability, that's not super interesting. In other areas it is, but for this challenge, it's not. AI in your design and your build, that's also very interesting to us, but it's just not a focus of this particular challenge.
Do you allow releasing payload plates individually, or must they be released together?
Yeah, so we'll go back to that safety. It's just about safety. So if you land and the setup you have drops 2 plates first and then another 2 plates or something like that, that's fine. Or if you have them in 2 kind of side-by-side compartments and you drop one and then you drop another set, that's okay as well. So it doesn't need to be all together.
Can we have the payload up on a stand for the craft to grab after takeoff, or a human-assisted connection of the craft to the payload?
Okay, 2 parts. So interesting question on the stand. I don't think so. Right now, we're just having them on the ground. But I can see how that would be difficult to grab them. So right now, we'll stick with they're on the ground. You can't elevate it or something like that. We might put down some plywood so it's easier. It doesn't grab into the ground. On the other one of can you manually attach, that comes down to your design. Once again, back to safety. So if you have a design that maybe your blades are shrouded or there's no, risk of chopping off a finger or something like that, then we'll look at that and we'll say, yeah, that probably makes sense. But if you've got big spinning blades, you're not going to have somebody go underneath and attach a payload.
Are we allowed to use a multi-aircraft system?
Yeah. Multi-aircraft is allowed, but the total combined weight of every one of those aircraft has to be below 55 pounds. So just keep that in mind. You have to do that. And for the mileage, for the unloaded loop, all of the aircraft have to do that unloaded loop as well, right? So they have to be in coordination. You can't just detach a small aircraft and run the last mile unloaded. That doesn't meet the original intent. You go out 5 miles, you return to base with everything.
Does every part of the aircraft have to land inside the 5-foot radius landing zone, or can parts of the system touch the ground outside of it?
Yeah, that's why we moved it from the 10-foot down to the 5-foot. So the intent here is to show controllability in landing. So that's why we have a 5-foot radius circle. So what we're doing is we're actually making the center of the aircraft, wherever that is, the center of the aircraft has to be within that 5-foot radius. If other parts of it, landing gears or whatever, are outside of that circle, that's okay. That helps us with the safety and an assessment of the controllability of the aircraft.
Where will the portal for contributor vendors be?
So we're building that out right now. You'll access it through the DARPA Lift Challenge website. So we'll have a link on there, and we'll put a link up before January 5th for people to apply. There'll be another link for the contributors. There'll be an application for that. Right now, it'll be like a business card kind of a deal. And then it'll be free between the teams and the contributors to connect, discuss what they have to offer, and anything that goes forward from there. We won't get in between that sort of interaction.
Can a ground crew be located with the aircraft to start motors prior to launch?
Yeah. So I did say it before. So when you move from the prep area to the actual launch area during your 90-minute window, you can have starters, you can start the aircraft there and prepare it, attach, if you're using a sling load, attach the sling load to it, all of that sort of stuff. Then you'll move back a safe distance, take off, and start executing your flight window. So yeah, you'll be able to move up there, start the aircraft, get it going as long as it's a safe starting, way, right? And then move back for takeoff.
What about weather issues? What should we prepare for?
Okay, so this is a good one. There was, when we were formulating this concept, we were saying, okay, people can come up with, some kind of designs made out of maybe like paper mache or something like that, right? And they'll only work in zero wind conditions. And that's just not, we're looking to actually get a design that goes out and is usable by the different kind of customers that are looking for this. So we do have the wind limitations that are on the rules on the website, but your particular flight window, a morning one and an afternoon one, whatever that is, if it is 1 knot below the wind limits, right, you will have to fly in that time frame. So do consider that when you're designing your aircraft. You may have to take off in 10 knot, 15, 20 knot winds and go. Now, if you don't and you just want to take it, by chance, that's up to you guys, right? It just doesn't work because of the wind conditions during that window, and you're going to aim for the next window. That's up to you guys and how you want to play the risk game here.
For the 2 trackers, are those going to be provided or must we supply them ourselves?
Good question. So the Flight Aware or the Flight ID one that is required by the FAA, you will have to buy that yourself. You have to buy it for under Part 107 and under the 44807. The other one is ours. So that'll be government furnished. It'll actually be shaped like a weight plate, so that way it'll fit inside of the compartments or however you guys are attaching things. And so we will put that in. We'll give you the weight of it as well. We'll try and make it a standard weight, like a 2.5 or a 5 pound weight. And then that will be part of the payload weight. So you'll have all the normal ones plus the 5 pound tracker on there.
Will there be internet access on site during the competition?
Josh, what do you got for internet access there?
So we do have internet access out where we're having it. Obviously, with site location and the amount of people and stuff, that will be something we'll be working on throughout the time of this competition. So, But currently, yes, we have internet access mostly through cell coverage.
Yep. Okay. So Josh brings up a good point. We want to have as many competitors as possible, right? We open this competition. You never know the type of response that you're going to get. So we would like to have everybody that has an aircraft that is in the design parameters that we've set, that has a safe aircraft. We would like to invite all of those. So we have a primary location there at Malvern, Ohio. When we start getting application numbers, we'll make a decision on whether we move somewhere nearby or we stay at that location.
Is charging or refueling allowed when the aircraft lands after the first 4 nautical mile loop?
Nope. So once again, it's going out to a customer or out into wherever. It's dropping off the payload and returning. That person doesn't have fuel on them to fix the aircraft or do anything. They simply receive the cargo and then the aircraft flies home. So we're doing the same thing with that turn. You're not allowed to do anything. You can remove the payload. That person could help with some transformation. That just really opens up some really cool possibilities, but you're not allowed to add any more energy sources to complete that last mile. And then some people are like, well, if the original context was going 5 miles and then returning, why is it 4 miles and 1 mile? That came down to time. So we started, looking at viable speeds around this course. And if we actually did 5 miles and 5 miles, it would be so long to be able to fit as many people as we wanted into this competition over, a set amount of days. So that's why we reduced it to 4 and 1 mile. and we'll just have to, make believe that that's what we want to do.
What is DARPA's scoring criteria, specifically for the subjective categories?
Yeah, that's a good one. So I'm going to have 3 other PMs, I think right now is 3 other PMs here at DARPA, all aviation type program managers. And they're going to be going out there and just looking for things that, are really amazing, right? So what we wanted to do, because this is aviation and there can be a number of reasons why something crashes. That doesn't mean it wasn't a good idea. So the subjective categories are to highlight those amazing ideas that are out there for the world to see, right? When we have our leaderboard, it'll be first, second, third. And oh, by the way, there were these amazing ideas. Now you can combine it. So the first place winner can also get the other 3 subjective categories. They're not exclusive, but we wanted to be able to have that freedom to say, wow, that's an amazing idea. You weren't quite able to, get up on the leaderboard all the way, but we want to highlight that for the world to see. So it's a subjective based decision that we'll have here with the 3 government program managers from DARPA.
Could you clarify the trajectory? Would it be a circle or an A-B trajectory with multiple turns?
Sure. Let's go back. Thomas, if you can go back to the slide with the graph on it. All right. So this is the basic course layout right here. It is not to scale, so please do that. We tried to make it big enough for you guys to see on the screen. But those are the 2 5-foot radius, so you'll land and take off out of one. When you return the payload, you'll land in the other one, remove the payload. We separated the circles so that you won't land on top of the payload when you come back from your unloaded mile. But we are going to have, right now we're looking at the inner box is about 50 feet wide. And then that outer box gives you a little bit more, about 65 feet, I believe. These numbers are still up. So we're still looking at locations and where we can fit all of these lanes. So I'm giving you round numbers, can't hold me to it. But that's what we're looking at right now. This will allow us to have lots of lanes right next to each other and to have lots of people flying all throughout the day. So another point I saw in one of the questions before the webinar was, can I have different energy things throughout the course, or can I have an observer at the end? Right now we're saying no. So you have the remote pilot in command there. If he needs an assistant, they can also stand in that connection or the box there with the lane coordinator. But this is the general setup. Thanks for making that bigger. Competition box. So this is the general setup, right? About 50 feet wide, about a 1/4 mile long. So you'll go to one end, turn around, come back, and do that until you hit your 4 miles. As long as you stay within that geofence perimeter, you can do S turns inside there to increase your, over the ground mileage. But that's the general concept of it.
Will DARPA supply the weights for the competition, or do we bring our own?
No, we'll supply it. So yeah, we're gonna bring all the weights. That way, there's no possibility of cheating. We're gonna buy those. You're gonna get the weights that are already there at the competition box. That also makes it much easier. We don't have to weigh the weights before each one of your attempts. We just weigh the aircraft. We count up the number of weights, and then you're off to launch, right?
We've had multiple questions about parachutes. Can you jettison your aircraft in sections, things of that nature? Can you elaborate, please?
Yeah. So, and I've seen this in previous emails as well. Parachutes, great idea. The thought here is, okay, you fly your 4 miles. If you want to use a parachute to help assist with the land, that's fine. You need to still land within that 5-foot radius. But when you take off again, you got to repack that. You've got to just not repack it, but you've got to stuff it in a box or something, right? The requirement is the only thing that is left behind are the weights. So when you go back out there, if you manually pull the weights off, you got to take that parachute, throw it back into the aircraft somewhere so that it can do the 1 mile unloaded loop on the way back.
Is the course going to be over flat ground, or will there be other obstacles?
Right now, with our current location, it's over flat ground.
All right, and one final question here. What was the highest ratio you have seen that could compete in this challenge so far?
Oh, wouldn't you guys love to know? I can't spoil it. Cannot spoil it. No, I've seen some amazing designs. We'll see if they work. We've gotten a lot of fun people from the internet email us. Some people say I can do a 10-to-1 and this is easy. So what I would say to everybody is great. Show up. Do it. Arrive at the competition and be that person that just blows everybody out of the water. We're ready. So I'm excited for you guys to come and do some crazy numbers, right? Things that people have never seen before. That's the whole point of this challenge, is to allow people to have these ideas that maybe aren't traditional ideas, to come to an open event like this and show that they can change aviation forever, right? And that's the exciting part. So we would love to see that happen. Okay. I think that was the last question, right, Ann? We're going to do for today?
Yep, that was it.
All right. So first of all, I want to really thank everybody for showing up, everybody registering, coming along with this competition, and taking time to come here, to listen, to ask the questions, and the overall interest in the Lift Challenge. This competition is designed to encourage innovation, like I said, showcase the talented teams on a national and international scale. We also want to accelerate the commercialization opportunities in this exciting field. That's why we're making it an open competition. The public will be invited to come see. And I've already heard of companies being like, I just want to show up to see what is the future of aviation. So we're incredibly excited to see your solutions. Can't wait to watch this unfold. We can't wait to start seeing some of your designs. We'll talk soon and look forward to your participation. So thank you very much.